What up, peeps? It's your girl Dash. Come back to your Frontal Takes. Today I'll be doing a review to the movie Suspiria. This is by director Luca Guadagnino. This is his reimaging or retelling of the original movie done by Dario Argento's 1977 movie. Now, I discussed this about, I'd say earlier in the year after we'd seen a trailer for it. Finally, I'd heard he'd been working on this. Now, I had told everyone when I did my reaction to it that it's been years since I'd seen the original. I saw it as a young teen, and like later down the road I did see it again. I hadn't seen it since then. I think early 20s, and it was very creepy to me. Visually everything about it was very creepy to me. That literally, again, like I said, nightlight was on, whichever, watching horrors at a young age, whichever. But I do remember certain parts of the movie. Now, for this one, it's starring Tilda Swinton. We have Dakota Johnson, Chloe Grace Moretz, and Mia Goth in the main lead characters in this movie. Now, this, of course, centers around a young girl played by Dakota Johnson's character. She goes by the name of Susie. She is an American girl, fresh, just basically traveling to Germany to be a part of a German dance company that is run by artistic director played by Tilda Swinton's character. She goes by the name Madame Blanc, but then she goes by some other names. Now, before I jump into it, I'm not going to spoil this for anyone. I'm going to try to just stick to basically everything that might have been touched within the trailer and give a little subliminal, whichever, but I don't want to give it away. If you all want to see this for yourself, I would rather you do so. And also, if you want to see the original, I know some people are comparing it. It's getting, it's almost like mixed reviews, whichever, but as I've said before, it's always hard when you're dealing with a retelling and somebody doing some sort of remake or whatever. You love the original, and it's always hard for you not to want to critique somebody else's thoughts and what they think, whichever. Now, granted, Dario was a writer on this particular script, so I give kudos to that because he felt very comfortable with someone coming in and honing and doing this, whichever. So it's almost like him giving his blessing of sorts. So, but yes, also, like I stated, Chloe Grace Moretz is in this. She plays the character Patricia. Mia Goth plays the character Sarah. Now, there are other characters within this that I will bring up within the movie. Now, for this one, I will say this. I remember the one from Dario's being like very psychedelic storytelling, the visuals, the colors, very beautiful, but definitely creepy and scary, I said, at times for me. Now with this one definitely had its fair share and its take on that genre. As I said, this is a dance studio and it's definitely run by witches. Now, if you see the way a lot of the characters act, and I'm going to give shout outs to some of the supporting characters. There's, let me go down the list because I had to write them down. I had Alec Weck. She's a model. She played Miss Mullius. Then we had another one, Angela Winkler, who played Helen, Miss Helen, what was it? I want to say Miss Tanner, excuse me. Very close to Madame Blanc, played by Tilda Swinton. There were certain characters you see more than other characters, which in regards to the witches in this particular movie. There's one in particular one I had not seen in quite a bit. Her name is Renee, I want to say Sudadichik. I could be saying that incorrectly. My apologies. She plays Miss Huller. She was in a movie years ago called Eve of Destruction. I've seen her in other things, but that's the one that always stands out for me. She was very creepy in this movie. Very creepy. There's another one, Ingrid Cavern, who plays Miss Vendigast. She was really creepy. Those two particular characters at times were very creepy. Just the way they kind of watched over the girls. And the way when we had certain characters, inquiring about Patricia's character played by Chloe Grace Moretz, of course her, if you saw the trailer, was missing, whichever, just making sure things were afloat, nothing, draw, attention to them or the dance studio of sorts, whichever. But of course, going back to the beginning, I liked seeing Dakota Johnson playing the character of Susie. Seeing that she did say in definitely interviews she was dealing with, learning the way to move as a dancer, whichever. It was very interesting, of course, her showing up, even though the character portrayed by Angela Winkler telling her she was supposed to come another day, but they couldn't reach her, whatever. She was already been there, coming from, I want to say her character, when they asked her where she came from, I think she said Indiana. So, definitely a fish out of water for her. And, of course, dancing for the ladies. Now, of course, Alec Weck's character, she danced for 3 of the ladies, aka witches. They were like, no. And then when she danced, they were like, no, we want you to move to no music. We want to see exactly your interpretation of a dance. And it was really interesting watching her, her form. And I love the scene where you see where, of course, Madame Blanc's with the girls, and she senses her doing her performance eventually shows up. So when you see a scene of Dakota in the trailer where she goes down, her face goes down, she comes back up, that's the scene where you see Madame Blanc all of a sudden lays eyes on her, whichever, so she can see her. I love that. You get to see a little part of Mia Goth, of course, her character doing dancing. She plays the character Sarah. She's the go-to that they ask to kind of guide and help Susie get acclimated in the dance company and become friendly with her, kind of helping her out, whatever. So she has somebody, because she's of course American as well, so she won't feel like she's the only American in there. There were some girls you could tell who had access, so they were not from there, because this is considered circa Germany 1977, the way they did the portrayal during the time of the war. So it was really interesting, that using it as the backdrop of sorts as well, with the overall storyline as well. Now I will say there's another character, when she's learning, they're learning the actual movements they need to do to get ready for a dance production that they're going to be doing in the coming weeks. Of course, this particular character goes by the name of Olga, and I want to get her name right. Her name is Elena Fokina. She is having a hard time, whichever, and this sets up a scene. And this is the only thing I'm going to kind of discuss on this part, whatever and all that. Not to say I'm spoiling it, because in the trailer you see the scene of a dance routine getting ready to happen. But Madame Blanc does something very interesting with Susie's character, played by Dakota Johnson, to set her up to do this dance in front of the other girls where they're in the studio room. Olga, of course, is having a moment where she ends up in the room with all the glass around. And let's just say, that scene was something to behold. And let me tell you, at times I had to turn away because it was so graphic. The way that Dakota's character is moving, when she's moving, is causing Olga to move, and she's moving so hard and rough from the moments of those movements that she ends up turning into somewhat like a human pretzel, the way her body was contorting. It was very graphic, and it was a lot to take in. It really made my stomach hurt, but it was perfectly done in regards to the way they were doing the scene, to give you a feeling of exactly the power and the supernatural entities that they can, use in regards to a certain scene to convey what they wanted, what the witches wanted to happen. And it was really, really done very well. Now, throughout the movie, you see the scenes of the girls, of course, preparing, rehearsals, whatever. And then you see scenes that are based from the trailer, where you see what looks like to be a hand with long nails that look very, grotesque, whichever. I do not want to give away the overall premise of the movie. It's hard for me to talk about it and not give it away, so I'm going to try to avoid that. But just, the sensing of, Dakota's character, giving the feelings like this can be the person they can use to have some sort of ritual, because there are, of course, if you see other scenes within the movie, they're trying to use these girls for a certain ritual. Case in point, when you go back to Chloe Grace Moretz. Now, at the beginning of the movie, you see her with her bag, and she's on, outside of a building, and she's hearing, protests, whatever, from the war. It's raining, she's, drenched, and she goes to see her doctor. His name, I cannot pronounce his last name, but his first name is Joseph, so I'll just say that. He is there, writing notes, whatever, trying to get into her mind. I understand. She's like, this woman can get in my mind. They helped me with my balance. They did this, whatever, and all that, but there were other things going on. She clearly was not very open to going along with what they want, because as you can find out throughout the movie, sometimes you'll catch the ladies discussing, the ladies of the dance company talking amongst each other, whatever, and you get to see, because they set up the scenes, like there's different parts of the scene, which I love the way the movie depicted, and it was really done really well. Act 1, Act 2, whichever, like this, so you're kind of having an idea. The movie is about 2 hours and 30 minutes, so it was rather long, and I'll be honest with you, the pacing of it was fine for me. I know some people might feel like it dragged. Not to me, the way they're setting it up. I know people, when it comes to certain movies, they want this fast pace, whichever, and all that and everything. Movies are not all going to always be like that. And that's one thing, as a moviegoer, you have to really understand when you watch certain movies. And for this one, that was not a problem for me, because I know the build up over time, it would eventually come. In certain parts, it would steady. And in some moments, they have to flesh out certain things, whichever, and that's fine. Now, for understanding what the witches were doing, with Chloe's character. She kind of, not to say she kind of got whipped, but certain things were happening. She kind of could realize there's a lot of things going on within this company, within this building. And that lets you know that she was aware of certain things happening. Of course, other characters like Mia Goth eventually comes across this Dr. Joseph, and he's trying to make her understand, because if you see a scene that shows of Chloe's character, Patricia, when he goes to the authorities, do you know who this person, have you seen this person? Of course it's written in German, but they show her face. Of course, she's considered missing, and he tries to reach out to other people. And he comes across her. She at first doesn't want to believe him, but then certain things he says to her starts to resonate with her a little bit, and she starts to kind of hear things in the middle of the night. And eventually, she kind of goes tracing the building and comes across certain little hidden doors, whatever. Amidst to her, kind of freaking her out, whatever. And she starts to realize some of what he said when she meets up with him again. That some things are not what they seem, and she's very aware of her surroundings. The ladies at first are not aware, whichever. She takes certain things from these closed spaces and little hidden rooms or whatever, and brings them to him, whichever. And then things start to happen. The dance moves, of course. Dakota's character learning, whichever, and all. She's afraid, if certain things happen, whichever. And of course, Tilda's character, playing the artistic director, tries to make her embrace it, whatever. Then there's scenes with nightmares, and let me tell you, this thing, they legitimately crafted a very visible representations of what can be truly a nightmare, and they were done very, very well. There was a scene with Dakota's having this nightmare, and it's just the visuals alone. Again, cinematography, everything within this was good. Now, granted, in the first one, it was colorful, whatever, lively. This one, the colors were a little bit more muted, whatever, and that was fine. Sometimes you got to wonder if this was circa 1977, because you couldn't tell. I could tell because of the clothing. That gives it away off the top, whichever. But yes, just the way, she was starting to see things in her mind, the way she's feeling about certain things happening, hearing certain things, whichever. I enjoyed that for what it was. Also, just trying to understand, the character, Tilda Swinton's character, playing actually 3 characters, playing, of course, Madame Black. Like I said, she's actually was ended up playing, and I don't know if I want to spoil this. No, I'm not going to spoil that. I'm going to leave this out because I don't know if some people, I might want to not say what this was, but she does play 3 characters. And it was very interesting, one of the particular ones that I did not know she was playing, but when I go back and remember, and I found out this before, somebody spoiled it for me, but it is fine. But when you look at her in this particular character, you're like, oh, okay. She does 2, and one of them I can see for sure. The other one is Madame Block, the artistic are fine, but this one particular one, I tell you, it was done very, very well. That she really had me. That's one thing about Tilda Swinton I can say. She's a great, great, actor. I don't want to say actress on an actor. She's just can play full range. She's similar to me, like how Meryl Streep is. She can, reincarnate herself, just totally can become a chameleon in whatever role you give her, whichever, and you can really get involved in that character. The way she gives off her presence, she's phenomenal to me. But yes, overall, you guys, honestly, the build up towards the end of the climax of certain things happening with a ritual towards the end. I won't give away exactly what happens in that, but it's very gory, very gory. And let me just tell you, in the midst of that, it was like the last, 15-20 minutes, somebody left out of the theater, out of the room, and eventually they come back, but before they come back, the lights are lit up a little bit in the theater, and I was pissed because it took away from the overall feeling of what was happening in this one particular scene. And I'm like, okay, if you all are freaking out, I understand, whatever, no, but don't take it away from me to enjoy the moment. And I was really pissed about that because I could tell, I'm like, why are these lights coming on here and making it worse, likely slightly dim? It was completely dark, and it was perfectly fitting for this. If you don't know this particular movie you're going to see, and you don't do a little bit of research, whatever and all that, then you might just want to wait for it to come out and watch it at home, because then you can just have your light on, whatever. I hate when other people spoil it for other people to have the full effect of the movie, whatever, and all that. Because somebody else had made a comment. I said, the lights coming? I said, yeah. I wanted to say, yeah, they're coming on. I can clearly tell the difference in the atmosphere inside the theater for where we were sitting at. But yeah, that's just a straight vent. But I agree. When I'm in the theater, it's dark. Don't do that. I hate that. So, but other than that ritual scene towards the end, and in one part of that scene with Dakota, if you've seen the pictures that are going around where she has her hands open, it looks like part of her, she's kind of open and you can see the inside of her chest. The way they show the coloring and the visuals of that is not similar to the picture that's going out here and whatever. And I'm just going to put that out there. That's not even a spoiler, but you'll understand like why doesn't it look similar to the one that was given with the picture that's going around, floating around on the internet. So I was kind of taken aback because it definitely does not look like what they, perceive. I don't know if they were afraid of the overall gore of it all. And when you see compared to the one that's online, you'll understand what I'm talking about. You're like, okay, I see your point, because yes, in the movie one, it's a lot more gorier than how it looks in that actual visual. It's more colorful, whatever, than this one is more dark and very gory looking from the actual movie scene. But yes, seeing, a big reveal of, certain things that happen to, people within the dance company. You'll get to see that, whichever, and just everything, the way it's tied in. Now, one thing I will say this that I didn't understand was the parts with the doctor. Even though he's meeting with Patricia, she's coming to visit him and visiting her, whichever, but then they decided to give us a backstory with him and someone that he loved named Anka. That was, he basically, they were married or whatever, and you supposedly she was trying to get to him, whatever, and all that, but then get caught up in throughout some sort of war protest, whatever, that she ends up going, ends up being somewhere else, and he doesn't have the love of his life anymore, and he's thinking she died, whatever, and she thought he died, and eventually he meets up with her in the movie somewhere where she's depicted in the movie. There's certain scenes that happen within that scene, but I do love it because the person who plays his wife Anka was actually in the original Suspiria, which I thought that was a nice touch, because it's almost like they paid homage to her by bringing her in it, which I thought that was really lovely, because I'm not giving that part with the fact that they said she was in the movie, whichever. I probably did in some ways, but at least I'm not giving you away some of the other stuff that happens in this movie. But yes, that was a nice scene. I love that, but then a lot of people are, probably thinking we weren't expecting them to have any story for him. He's just the doctor, wanting to know what happened with Patricia, but they decided to give him a layer within the movie. He kind of gets involved a little bit with, of course, the dance company being involved with trying to figure out what happened to the girl, which is not what the witches wanted. They want to move on to find someone else to be who they want to be, their literally sacrificial lamb of sorts. So, but yes, but overall, you guys, I really enjoyed this movie. I cannot say it enough. I really feel like, and I can say it, I feel horror, yes, pretentious horror at times, yes. Also, just thinking that he hit all the nails with this movie. I really do believe he did. I want to say this is how I feel a remake can be done. It can't be probably said for a lot of remakes. You keep the basic premise, whichever, and then you just kind of pursue your own story, bit by bit, whichever. And I feel like, he brought to, that's why I said that Dario Argento was one of the writers on this particular one. So I think that's kind of why he kept some similarities from his and this when they came together to write the screenplay. And then, of course, let Luca do, what he wanted to add to bring. Now, I've been hearing word that he's considering they might do a sequel, but I'm wanting them to do a prequel. I want to understand, I discussed this when I did my reaction, I want to understand how this came to be, this dance company, how, the Marco, sisters came around, whatever, and then also how, they go through these rituals, why they feel the need to do these rituals, whichever, with all the characters, all the witches and all that, and just understanding the premise of how this all came to be. That would be better. I hope they really do a prequel. That would be nice. And if Dario Argento comes on board to help with that, that would be awesome. If those two work together to make that storyline, because then that can be the way that can continue on with that. If they just choose from there to do a sequel, then that's fine. Whichever. Again, don't want to give too much away, whichever. So like I said, I'm trying to keep this definitely as much spoiler free as I can possibly can. But I would love for you all to check this out yourself. I think you all would enjoy this. And like I said, you have your other type of movies, horror genre, action, whatever, and all that. A lot of people want, beginning, middle, and end, whatever, and to be done, whatever. No real extra thinking involved with the movie, whichever. But with this one, I think you'll get what you need to understand what's happening in this movie. It's not that far-fetched. A lot of people are like, oh my God, whatever. I heard a couple of people, they said it walked out of the movie. I'm like, really? It is what it is. It's not everybody's cup of tea, and there's nothing wrong with that, whichever. But there's nothing about this movie that really would make you really want to just literally walk out like it's that bad. Somebody had the nerve to say that this is worse than Mother. I'm like, now you're reaching. So I'm like, please stop. Whichever. If you're just gonna say you don't like it, just don't like it. Don't try to compare it to anything else. Mother is a totally different type of movie. Let's not even go there. So, but anyway, you guys, my rating on this, I'll give it about a 7.5 out of a 10. I thought it was pretty good. Some little parts in here and there and all that, but it's nothing to the point where I'm going to like really, dog the movie, whichever. But overall, I really enjoyed it for what it was. There's those scenes, I tell you, those couple of scenes in here, literally my mind is blown still thinking about it, whichever and all that. I'm not going to watch the movie no time soon. It's still after grass, whatever. That's why I said it was really deep in some scenes or whatever that really have just, oh my God, it's just my mind and it's nauseous just thinking about it, but whatever. But needless to say, comment below if you all seen it. Tell me what you all think. And with that said, I will see you guys on the next review. You guys take care.